All right. So the next one is Brendaline, and so I have her chart up here. So when she started in her pre, was her total EI, was 83, right? Again, let's remember the norm is anywhere between 90 and 110. So she fell a little short of just that 90, which is on the lower end of the spectrum. So looking at the composites, right? Although, you know what, that's okay. After this, I'll do the physical and psychological. But if we look at the composites, the overall 5 composites, her self perception in it pre impact study was 97, self expression was 71, interpersonal 86, decision making 82, stress management 86. And so if you look at all of that, I would say her self-expression is lagging a little behind, right? Her happiness indicator is at 94, so that's a very good place to be. It hits the norm, which is good. So then let's go back to the overview part. And if we look at some of those asterisk subscales, self-regard, she's at 83. Assertiveness, 70. Problem solving, 84. Optimism, 113. So here we are seeing again that there's this sense of hope and positivity in her life, maybe, and for the future, which I think is probably carrying her through. It's pretty much anchoring her and helping her to build a bridge to move forward. Again, this is my best summation and opinion with her. And remember, she actually Brendaline took this in September, remember? So some of the cohort members took this way ahead of the start date of March. But what I did was I took it from when she took the first pre-test. So, all right. So then her self-regard, again, is at 83. So we want to keep an eye on that. Her assertiveness, the way she communicates her feelings in a non-offensive way, is at a 70. So it almost says to me, I'm going to look at her stress tolerance is 76, flexibility 75, impulse control 86. I'm going to say that she probably doesn't communicate. I don't know if she's communicating not at all, really, right? Or if she's communicating in an offensive way. I don't know, but if I remember correctly, just from talking to you about this woman, she's a pretty even-keeled, she doesn't really get, does she get emotional?
Well, she's somebody who will happily express herself, and you hardly know what she's thinking and feeling.
Okay, that's what. Yep. That's what.
I don't know if we could tie that. You remember when she came, she couldn't even read or write. That was the person I was teaching to read and write.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been longest in trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
But she's never really expressed some kind of, how she's feeling hurt or not hurt. She's just kind of just silent.
Yeah, so that's actually what is reflective here, is that she's got this kind of, not, and I wouldn't say quiet, but she's just not, what's the word I'm looking for? She's not putting herself forth. It's almost like she's in the background, and she's not asserting herself. She's not speaking. She's kind of just observing. And she's very, very quiet, and she's more in the background. She's not very comfortable or used to actually speaking about herself or on behalf of herself or in a group. Would you say that that's correct?
That's a perfect picture of Brendaline.
Okay, so this is back in the beginning, All right, so then we move to the midpoint, right? And so the midpoint was in October, right? And her total EI spikes really to 102. She went from 83 to 102, which was amazing. So she's doing well. If we go back to the balancing EQi, we look at our 5 composites, and her self perception moves up quite a bit to 111. Self expression jumps 20 points to 91. It says to me she's getting more confident not only in herself but in how to speak on her own behalf, not only on her own behalf, but to do it in a non-offensive and in a very a good manner, a positive way. Her interpersonal jumps to 113, decision making jumps to 103, and her stress management goes up to 92. All of this is looking good. And if you add that standard deviation of, say, 10 to 15 points, you actually, she's just about balanced if you look at just the composites, right? Her happiness indicator jumps to 116. So if we go back to so this is looking decent, but let's go back into the subscales on her mid test, and you'll see her self-regard jumped to 99. Self-actualization went down a little bit to 112, and her emotional self-awareness jumped to 122, right? So she's really understanding herself, and she's really working on respecting herself and gaining some confidence, which might be the reason why her pursuit of meaning or self-improvement kind of took a little bit of a decrease, which I'm not really concerned about. But it could be that she's really focusing on respecting herself, a certain aspect of herself, right? And understanding her own emotions. And she's kind of set, she's kind of set her pursuit of meaning, her purpose in life, not really on the side. It's still there, but these other subscales kind of took precedence, which is good, right? Because you really need them to be balanced. So if you look at this, she's a little, her understanding of her own emotions is a little bit higher than if you take the lowest, which is 99, and the highest is 122. So it's slightly out of balance. Yet you can almost see that she's really focused on understanding her emotions, which isn't a bad thing. That's a good thing. If we move to the self-expression, she jumps 20 points overall. She jumps to a 100 with a constructive expression of how she's feeling. She jumps to 91 in communicating her beliefs, right, and her feelings. Yeah. And she does this in a non-offensive way, and in a probably a matter of a fact way. And she jumps 21 points. Now her independence, right, which is her voice, so to speak, and her beliefs that's free from emotional dependency, right? So she's being able to separate her emotions, right, from the way she's speaking and trying to get her beliefs across or speaking on her own behalf. She's not speaking, in a frenzied way or upset way. She's really starting to separate those things, and you see it with her score of 87. On her interpersonal, you see her interpersonal relationships, right, went up, and it went up across the board on everything. Again, I really do feel as though the cohort is a sense of community for all of these women, and it really anchors them in being able to really understand the importance of mutually satisfying relationships, especially now. Brendaline was trafficked for 15 years, right? So there was no, probably no really great relationships that she had. She was really, so for her to even start with the 94 was amazing, but for her to spike up to 105 is even fantastic. And I think the cohort gives her an opportunity to see how it should work. How do healthy, positive relationships work? What do they look like? So, all of the cohort members are a wonderful example to each other, as well as you, because you are in this leadership position, right? So she kind of, now she's understanding, how to have a good relationship with someone who is your mentor, coach, teacher, facilitator, that type of role. Her empathy really, really looks good. She's really starting to understand how others feel. Think about it. After 15 years of being trafficked, it would make sense to me that it would be all about me now, because I'm sick of dealing with others. And her pre-score of 81 kind of maybe reflects that. And yet at midpoint, she's at 118. So it looks like she's really starting to understand and wants to understand how other people are feeling. And again, the cohort members give each other an example to say, hey, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. I know how you're feeling. You can talk to me because I totally understand. I can have real, true, authentic empathy and sympathy with you. The social responsibility, the sense of wanting to pay it forward with community, really, and that increased. And again, everything that I said kind of prior to this has funneled into this very robust interpersonal composite that she has. And her scores here are pretty well solid and balanced. So it looks, okay? Going to decision making, her impulse control is at 92. So if you add the standard deviation to that, she's still balanced, but she's, her impulse control is lagging a slightly behind her reality testing and her ability to find solutions and choices whenever emotions are involved, right? But it's still looking pretty solid, right? She went in from the 80s to really the low 90s to 100, low to mid hundreds. So she's made great strides here, right? At midpoint. Stress composite, she made some incremental increases here that are very good, especially the stress tolerance, right? So she went from a 76 to a 99, which is amazing. Her optimism did take a hit from 113 to 92, but her reality testing also went up. So what that says to me, my guess is that she's very positive, but she has a realistic outlook on maybe how long it's going to take to get to where she wants to be in life. But she's still positive, but the idea that it's probably going to take longer than she anticipated, and that it's going to take some hard work, probably has brought her down a little in optimism. I'm not that concerned about it right now. I can understand where it's coming from because she's going through all the work, right, that the cohort is doing. And she's really starting to understand that a change in one's life takes work, accountability, all of these things. She is being held responsible for her own life and her own future. And all of these things are heavy. So they can affect a person's optimism, but not in a bad way. It's almost like the reality is, okay, I understand what's going to go on. I'm still positive. And she could be focusing, like I said, on self-actualization. What do I want to do in life? How do I want to pay it forward? And, I'm positive, but that's also taking a little bit of a break, right? Because I'm focusing on these other things. Then if you look to happiness, you look at how hot she goes from a 94 to a 116. Even though her positive attitude went a little bit less, she's happy. And I think my guess is that she's happy that she knows that the way to change things is lies within her own hands. And she now knows that if she wants to make a change, she's responsible for it. She may not know exactly how to get there, but she believes in the process, which is also reflected in the problem-solving score of 102 as opposed to 84. Okay? So then if we go to post, right? We're done. It's been a year or so. Her total, and this is, the post always fluctuates. It's almost like midpoint spikes up or down. It's kind of like in a state of movement. The post kind of nails it a little bit more to see really where you're at, or things have changed, right? Something has happened to really increase it or decrease these scores, okay? So overall, total EI, she comes in at 106. So she's basically increased by 23 points, which is really great.
Yeah, 106, yeah.
Now, if you look at the 5 composites, self-perception went to a 119, so it went up 22 points. That looks good.
Wow.
Self-expression goes to 101. She went up 30 points. Interpersonal, 103, up 17 points. Decision making, down to 96, but still yet she went up 14 points, and she's falling within that norm of 90 to 110. Stress management, wow. 105. She went up 19 points. And so if we look at the 5 composites together, just them, like in the balancing EQi worksheet, you take the lowest score, which is 96, and you take the highest, which is 119. So her decision making is a little out of whack, right? So she just might need, like I've said before. Now, of course, it's within the norm, 90 to 110. However, it's not necessarily in balance. Either that or self-perception is 119 is a little, maybe that's the one that's out of balance. It's not always the lowest one that might be out of balance. Sometimes it's the highest one, because 96, because all the other 4, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, and stress management, those 4 are actually balanced. Self-perception is spiked at 119. Why might that be? I don't know. We're going to have to look. That's when we look further in the balancing EQIs. But for now, I want to look at the other subscales under back to the overview. Let me see if I can see what's going on here, right? So do you have questions?
I just want to ask if it's normal to have some of those spikes, some of those little excesses.
Yes, of course, because remember, you're dealing with your emotional and social intelligence, right? And anything can happen to spike something. When a person takes these, what it does is it represents where you are, right? So if I give an EQI one day and then a week later I give it again, and I know something traumatic has happened to that person, I would expect their EQI to maybe fluctuate in maybe 1 to 3 of the subscales, right?
That's true. That's right.
So, but overall, we have to. That's why I like to pull a mid, but I also like to pull 3, and I like to pull another one in 6 months' time after this to see how are they doing, right? So March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So in September, if possible, we'd like to give the EQI to them another time. I don't know if we can fit that in, but we can talk about that, later. So under the self-perception composite, her self-regard is a solid 111, self-actualization 122, emotional self-awareness 115. She's pretty solid in feeling good about herself, which is freaking amazing with what she's gone through in life. This is a true testament of to me, a warrior. This woman's a warrior, hands down a warrior. And she's quiet. It's very, she's quiet about it.
I would confirm what you're saying, because she's one of those who've never come up complaining of this, complaining of hunger, complaining of inabilities to meet her needs, and so on. She has never said anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, she carries a very quiet yet very profound presence, is my guess. Again, this is just by going from here, these EQI tests, as well as listening to you talk about, the different cohort members, Brendaline in particular, as well as reading the recaps. That's why the recaps have been so important. and our debriefs and conversations. So then the self-expression, right? She's got 110, 109, but her independence is 84. It is lower than the other two. However, remember, she's 12 points higher than she was when she started, which is fabulous. Now, this is her voice, that it's self-directed, it's free from emotional dependency, right? So she might be struggling a little bit. And that kind of says to me, because this is piggybacked with problem solving, which took a dive of 79 from 102 at mid to 79, and it actually went down 5 points. So here's my question to her, right? Is what's going on? And you know what I kind of think it is? I think it's that she is struggling, and she might be getting a little, she's pretty solid everywhere else, but her stress tolerance, is still high, but it's a little lower than the rest. She doesn't know how to get from A to Z. She had faith at midpoint. She had faith, 102. That says to me that I got faith that I'm going to figure this out. By the time post came around, she's probably saying, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out. Maybe there's a sense of frustration. And
possible. There should be some things that are going on within them that we don't know.
Right. So that's a good question for her. What's going on? And it might be have something to do with her independence under her self-expression composite. Even though she's raised her score from a 72 to an 84, it's still lagging slightly behind her other ones. Okay. Now look at her assertiveness, her ability to communicate how she's feeling and what she believes goes up 39 points. That is amazing. And that really that really says to me that her scores in the self-perception composite that are so positive, that they're anchored. Those are true scores because her assertiveness subscale supports that. It supports the fact that she is trying really hard to communicate who she is, how she's feeling, and what she believes in a non-offensive way, right? But so then if you go into the interpersonal, she basically goes from a 94, 105 to a 94, right? So she had no increase in mutually satisfying relationships. So you want to maybe ask, what's going on. Her empathy, went to a 99. So she went high on a 118, which is really, really high. In her social responsibility, she went up 29 points to a 119, right? So there's a little something going on, and I'm really not sure what. So that's just a conversation as to, what's going on. And as you move forward and you start having these conversations with these members, after you refresh your memory and you review these videos that I'm taking on each person, if you need to come to me and say, okay, what should I ask them? What type of question should I ask them in regards to this or that? You let me know, and I'll email you some questions, some starter questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she came to the office today. If we already had this conversation, I would have been able to speak to her.
Well, that we don't know. I mean, you could have, yes, but I don't know. I mean, when you set up a time to speak with her, you let me know, and if you have any questions, you let me know, and I will give you a few questions to prod, to begin the conversation. But remember, a lot of times you kind of got to just go with the conversation and just let it go organically and naturally, right? And but it's better to have a few questions here, in front of you, especially to maybe begin and direct the conversation in some way with your discussion with her. And we will. My sense is she's frustrated. She's not where she wants to be, but she's hanging in there and she's feeling really good about herself. She has faith that it's going to happen, but she's frustrated because maybe it's not happening fast enough, and it's probably stressing her out a little bit, but maybe not too much. Her optimism level, look at that. It actually went up 3 points. It went from 113 to 92. Now we're back up to 116. So she's kind of in an she's had some hills, right? Some mountains and some valleys, and some mountains and some valleys. And isn't that life in general, depending on what's going on in someone's life? But you know, her post scores say to me she's rolling with the punches in an affirmative way, and she might be getting scraped up here or there, but she ain't getting beat. And her happiness level ends at 101, which is, you know, like I said, just for her to start at 94, phenomenal. For her to end at 101, fantastic. This woman is a testament to what a person can do in the midst of adversity. She is like a poster child for that. You know, I mean, that's just my feeling. She's got a strong constitution. I don't think she'll ever get beat down in her lifetime.
True.
So
that's true because even around the mid, I think that's when she even left where she was living. She had the courage to walk away from a sex exploiter, and she could still go through all of that. Then with the baby and so on, she has strength in her. Yeah,
I think she has inner strength and character that she probably didn't even know she had. She probably knew there was something. She didn't know how to identify it. And I'm hoping that she identifies it now. And if she hasn't, you need to, you can show her this video, or you can just tell her what I said, that, you know, she has a great sense of strength, a great sense of self. She is solid. However, remember, let's not rest on our laurels and let her free. She's still going to need that personal connection. She is still going to need your assistance, maybe for the rest of her life, just because, you know, at some point you go from student to mentor, and you're now you're co-mentors. Do you know what I mean? There are times where the student becomes the mentor and the mentor becomes the student. And that is a beautiful experience. You know, it truly is. When you can learn from your student and your student can learn from you, it's almost like this beautiful flow, you know, back and forth. If you can imagine energy just up and down and back and forth, and this, you know, with no animosity, and just this beautiful sense of I don't know, energy, love, whatever, you know, however you want to describe it. But very happy with her scores. Let's finish the balancing EQi before we look at our final worksheet. So under balancing EQi, I look to see, and we're only going under the post, okay? You can do pre, you can do mid, but let's look at the post because that's where we're at. So under self-perception, you can see that I've highlighted problem solving, right? It's low in relation to the others. That's not a surprise. We knew that we had to still work on problem solving. If you go under self-expression, the emotional self-expression is spiked at 115 on a couple of those in relation to the others. And, you know, remember what emotional self-awareness is, right? That's your understanding of your emotions. And I think she's just hyper vigilant about understanding her emotions and getting it right. So I don't think there's a problem here. I think that that's just going to organically balance out as she learns how to problem solve. She's gonna this is going to all her. I don't think that her emotional self-awareness is ever going to go down. I think the other ones are going to bring it up, are going to come up to it. They want to rise to that same level. But for right now, you can see it's a little spiked higher than the others. If you go under interpersonal, you'll see her self-actualization, then you'll see emotional self-awareness, self-actualization. Again, I don't think these are bad things. This is probably what is basically pulling her through her adversity in life. She has a strong sense of purpose and life and where she wants to be. She those sort of things. So as she learns how to problem solve properly, not even properly, I shouldn't say that, but how to problem solve in many different areas of her life, you're going to see all these other scores rise to the same level. So I'm not worried about those. I like that they're spiked, because those, if any of them had to be spiked, it would be those. Your pursuit of meaning in life is important. It will carry you through in the depths of despair. All right, so under decision making, you see again, problem solving is a little low in relation to all the others. Again, no surprise. Now, when you get under stress management, you can see I've highlighted some. They're just a little out of whack. Two might be balanced. Some others might not be. So under stress management, the first quadrant, I have all of them highlighted. And the reason being because, 94, because they're if I picked, 79 and 80, problem solving and independence work okay. Flexibility and impulse control work okay with themselves, with each other, but they're basically all a little out of whack, right? And then problem solving in the next one, and then the other one's fine. So my main concern here is problem solving, right? Let's try to nail that home. And actually, if we do problem solving in July, we should probably definitely do retesting in July.
September.
It's September or October. I know I know October is hard. It's going to be hard for you. But you might.
I mean, September can be better.
Okay, but we might want to retest them on that, and just to see if anything has changed.
We keep it just at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, so then let's go to our last chart, which is physical and psychological. So let me see what she said on her score in regards to these. She said better and better. It's her she feel like her physical health is better. She feels as though her physical health is better today, which was last March, than it was when she began. Same with her psychological health. She said that she felt it was better. So if we look at this overall, her physical health went up 13.5 points. If we take into consideration happiness as a subscale, it increases about 12.5%. So 1% difference. So she's looking pretty good here. Psychological health goes up 16 points. And if you add in optimism and happiness, it goes up 12 points. Either way, she's going up anywhere from 12 to 16 points overall. And so this says to me that she is physically good and she's emotionally pretty good. But what is your take on her from when she started to when she, to the end of this impact study?
When she first came, she had a lot of issues that she locked up in her over the years. Things that she could not express that really weighed her down.
Mm-hmm.
So we started and went almost midway, she began to open up to the cohort. Like her issue of rape, where she was serving as a domestic servant, the master there raped her. That issue was never told to anybody. Mm-hmm. And it was a fat chunk of pain in her, which really weighed her down. And I remember there was a meeting. It was a day that she really opened up and expressed that to everybody. I was crying. And after that incident, that hidden secret that burst out to me was some kind of healing. Some kind of healing. That's something that I noticed. Then physically, she was kind of, there was kind of self-negligent on herself. But when she started coming up, mixing with the crowd, coming to the meetings, she started paying a lot of attention to herself, looking good, plating, and so on. Even doing her nails. Those are some of the things I noticed.
It's amazing, really, for her to open up to the group. What a that's a testament, really, to you as a facilitator and as a mentor, as well as the other cohort members. She obviously felt safe, and she felt as though she could trust you, all of you, with that kind of information that she has never told anybody. And that is just huge. And that really proves the importance of a personal connection. Not only a person, see, the cohort is a sense of community, but within that community are all of these really neat kind of personal connections that can take place. Personal connections between each other, between you and a cohort member, and it's just I can't even explain it, really. I just can't even explain it. I've often thought how to explain what goes on within a cohort, but I can definitely explain um, the after the I can like some of the things that happen, right? The end results, the product, okay, of this sense of community. And one of them is how she actually told everybody about how she was, that she was raped, and that she felt comfortable enough and safe enough. This is a product of what can happen in a safe, affirmative environment. Not only safe and affirmative, but when you're in a safe and affirmative environment, there's also a sense of confidentiality. And if you feel safe enough and you feel as though you can trust, right? So there's that sense of trust that comes in with that affirmative environment and this sense of confidentiality. This is you should feel very, very proud of yourself and the cohort members and in the environment that you have created. Sometimes we just don't feel as though what we're doing, really has an effect, that it does not maybe influence. And yet that right there, if nothing else happened in this last year, that right there was worth it. Because
I wanted to say that there are a lot of things. This was a research, and that's the importance of research, because you bring people together, you don't know what is happening, but as you are researching and finding and doing your findings, you get to discover. When it is presented, you also discover things. For example, I never knew we could have a safe space for one another. It's only as we went on and through the study that we discovered that the cohort provided a safe space for each of the members. So it's thanks to the study that we did. If not, we will not even know.
Yeah. It really, it's amazing what can happen within that year and beyond, with really just, these basic foundational principles of an affirmative, safe environment. Pardon me?
I said we're talking of just 1 year. What if we went on to 2 years?
Well, that's why I say, we should, it's like, the reason I don't ever want to say goodbye to anyone, although if they're good to go, then I respect that. my doors are always open. Do you know what I mean? I'm always available for a conversation. But if you need more, I'm flexible with that. You want to see me once a month, I'll do it. You need to see me once a week, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And I got that because when I graduated from my graduate program, you're like graduated and you're basically bam, good to go. And it was like, okay, wait a second. I just learned all this stuff. I don't really want to walk alone on this journey yet. Not because I'm afraid, or not because I don't have the tools and the education and the training. But it was the fact that, you know what, I need someone to talk to. I need a conversation. I need a sounding board. Right? I need that personal connection with my colleagues. And that's why when that happened, it was very important. It was very hard for me to go through that. But I realized that the reason I had to walk that and feel that pain is so that I could incorporate that into what I do and what I teach. It's very, very important to offer that extended hand for longer. I would always love to have, and I've tried this, but it's very hard with people's schedules sometimes because after they go through all this, it's like, all right, and then they're gone. They're like living their lives. And all of a sudden they're all too busy. They have conflicting schedules and all of these things. I have offered an extended group, but I found it really hard to work along everybody's schedule. So, do I believe there should be a year too? I sure do. I sure do. So, maybe at another time we can have a discussion on what does that look like? Does it look like still once a month? Does it look like once every 3 months? What does it look like? Because I would be very happy to work on that separate level, a separate type of thing.
Yeah, because I'm saying if we could have such results just in a year, get people healed, get people out of some kind of trauma and so on in just 1 year, then what if we carried forward to, or let me say, we extended to 2 years, a year and 6 months, and the impact will be greater.
Yeah, because we can never rest on our laurels. You can't just, look at Brendaline. She's doing great. We can't just say, okay, bye. How I can't do that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's why I always say, okay, let's test them again in 6 months, see what's going on. Are they doing well? And then after that, we do it every year, annually, from that point on, just to check them, for whomever is available. Most of the time, my students drop off. I would.
Displays. Some people go to other cities. Some people will be too busy.
But if you can, you have to. Like I said, you always offer to whomever would like to stay in contact. You had 10 members. Even if you have just one, then you just have just one. Look at Miss Bell. Miss Bell is my one, who I have stayed in contact with all this time. And I do stay in contact with others, but not as much as, like with Miss Bell. I actually see her. We talk. I still help her and coach her or mentor her in certain things in her life. That kind of thing. But getting back to Brendaline, she looks really good. She's solid. We definitely need to hit home the problem solving, which we will. And then, retest in 6 months, all of them, if possible.
We're going to do I think it would be good to do an extended agenda on problem solving.